Hi, I'm Wendy Turner, Executive Director of Michigan Public. You might have heard that public media is under threat. You're not wrong. But I come to tell you that your voice has power. Visit protectmypublicmedia.org, contact your lawmakers, and take a stand today.
From Michigan Public, this is It's Just Politics. I'm Zoe Clark.
And I'm Rick Pluta. Another week, another gubernatorial announcement.
We created the middle class and put the world on wheels because we're tough.
Today, Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson announced she is running for the state's highest office.
She is the first Democrat to announce after Republican State Senator Eric Nesbitt's announcement last week and Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan, who will be running as an independent, announced late last year.
Rick, you caught up with Benson very early this morning, right after the announcement was made public.
And I started by asking her, I guess it's the obvious question, why is she running?
You know, I love my job. I love serving as Michigan's Chief Motor Vehicle Officer and Chief Election Officer for the last several years and running Michigan's largest state agency. But I feel we need to do more to make government work well for everyone. I think the results of this past election clearly say that Michiganders want leaders who are going to put them first, save them time, save them money, and make their lives a little easier. And that's why it's important to me to take skills I've honed running our state's second largest agency and make all of state government work as well as our office. So I think, my parents were special education teachers. And as a former educator myself, I think it's really important that we're also preparing our kids to inherit not just our democracy, but our economy and everything else that we want to be as we prosper as a state. And in my view, we've got to make sure Michigan's education system is going from the bottom 10 in the country to being in the top 10. So that as a mom of an 8-year-old son, when my son graduates in 10 years, I want to know that he's had the best education possible, and I want every kid in Michigan to have that confidence as well and be prepared for the future. And lastly, I'll just say, I started my career investigating extremist organizations around the country. I'm not afraid to take on tough fights. I'm not afraid to stand up to anyone who would take away the rights and freedoms of our residents and our citizens. And so for me, making sure our rights and freedoms continue to be protected is going to be critical for the next governor in this new era. And it's something I've spent my life doing. The bottom line for me is I just want government to work well for everyone. And I know right now a lot of Michigan residents, when they're asked if government works well, they point to our office and say yes. And I want folks to be able to do that for every agency in the state.
You're the first candidate to announce in the Democratic Party. No doubt you're not the last. What is the unique case for Jocelyn Benson as governor?
For me, running the state's largest or second largest agency for the last 2 years, no one is better prepared to take on this job as the state's top executive. And as Secretary of State, I haven't just gone around the state and listened to Michiganders' concerns about how to make government work well. In my case, the long wait times and inefficiency of our office when I took over was clear as I visited every one of our branches. So I didn't just listen, though. I took action and delivered results that has saved every Michigan resident time and money under my leadership. Our office has drastically improved. The department went from having some of the longest wait times in the country to being a national model for state services. And, in addition to that, if we want Michigan to be the best, we need leaders who are running on a vision for the future that invests in our people, not just lowering costs and saving Michiganders money, but also making sure we're protecting everyone, we're keeping everyone safe no matter where they live or who they worship or who they love. And also that, again, as a mom, it's important to me that we make Michigan the best place to be a kid, to raise a kid, and to call home. So I'm ready to take on anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, to make sure Michigan is leading the nation on a whole bunch of metrics, including education, and that our rights and freedoms stay intact and we have a people-driven economy that works for everyone, not just folks at the very top.
Give us a concrete policy proposal that's sort of emblematic of what you would try to do as governor.
Just like I've invested in making people's lives easier as Secretary of State and protecting their voice and their vote, I want to invest in people through our economic vision as well. I think every Michigander should have a path to prosper out of high school. And so we've got a 3-tiered plan to get there, to actually have an economic agenda that is people-focused and people-centric. And it starts with creating a state fund through public-private partnerships that will offer job training and paid apprenticeships to folks in high school so that they can get into an apprenticeship program and get right on the work line if they want to do that through manufacturing or other positions through apprenticeship programs. So that's one thing that will be an option, I hope, for every Michigander going through high school upon graduation. But secondly, we want to create a second option, a Michigan Corps, a paid year of service for folks graduating high school who may not want to enter the workforce yet, who may not be ready for college, but would like to spend a year being paid to serve their communities and serve their fellow residents. And at the end of that year of service, they'll receive funds to either put for college tuition or start a business themselves or a nonprofit or invest in their career in another way. So that's a second option we want to offer to every Michigander. And then third, of course, if folks want to continue on to their education and get a four-year college degree, we need to expand innovative ways to pay for education and cut costs, just like I did when I was dean at Wayne State Law School. And I want folks, when they graduate with a four-year degree or two-year degree, to stay in Michigan and graduate into several different innovative, high-paying industries that we want to invest in and develop beyond our legacy auto industries, like climate tech, like bringing back the film industry, and many other ways in which we can create a plethora of economic growth opportunities for residents who go through college and want to graduate and get a high-paying job here in Michigan with their degree.
How hard will it be for a Democrat in Michigan to win in this environment? Donald Trump won Michigan. It's also extremely rare for a candidate of the same party to follow a governor who served out their terms. Michigan voters have historically shown they like a partisan switch from governor to governor. How do you buck that trend?
Well, I'll say two things. First, I'm not a pundit. I don't pretend to be one, but I've noticed a few things as a statewide leader, and this will be my fourth statewide campaign. The number one thing I've noticed is that Michiganders, whether you be a Democrat, independent, or Republican, they just want government to work well for them. They want it to be on their side, to be investing in them, to save them time, save them money. And frankly, that's the type of leadership I brought to this office. It is the reason why I received more votes in 2022 than anyone else on the ticket. It's a reason why I received support from Democrats, Republicans, and independents, because, when people come into a branch office for the Secretary of State, we don't care who they voted for or what their political party affiliation may be. We just want to make their lives easier. We just want to help. We just want to serve. And that's really what Michiganders have been not just supporting over time, but also wanting. I just spent 4 weeks traveling the state, meeting in communities from downriver to Canton to Grand Rapids to up in Traverse City and Marquette. And the number one thing I heard is folks just want to make sure the government's on their side, that it's not going to just make decisions in line for what's best for the most powerful voices or big business. They actually want to invest in real solutions to make their lives easier. And that's what I've done. That's what I'm going to continue to do. And I do believe we can build a broad-based coalition of support to win this office and really bring people-driven solutions to everyone in Michigan.
Now, on that same track, what did you see in the last election when Donald Trump won Michigan that tells voters you're the person to be the Democratic nominee for governor?
Well, a couple of things. One, what I did see is that Democrats had some incredibly important wins in Michigan this cycle. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, Congresswoman Kristen McDonald-Rivet, Justice Kyra Harris-Bolden, Justice Kim Thomas won their races by significant margins. Even despite a national trend towards Republican candidates, Michigan still remained a shining example for strong Democratic women winning statewide. And what we also saw, however, is that Democrats need to do a better job listening and responding, showing up where people are and taking action with a very clear, specific economic agenda for improving people's lives. When you look at who won, not just in Michigan, but in many other places, it was candidates, leaders who brought that vision to people of every party. And that's what I've done in every election I've run in, and that's what we'll continue to do. I want to make sure that, we both address the fears people are having. People are very scared of the impact that a second Trump term may have on their rights and freedoms. And you need someone as a governor who's going to stand up to anyone, even the most powerful leader in the country, if they would come to threaten the safety and security of our residents. And I have done that, and I will continue to do that. And I've also heard from people who are concerned about the cost of living and whether they're going to be able to afford buying a home and raising a family here. And as I've overseen the highest turnout elections in our state's history these last several years, we've seen a lot of folks who really want to believe that their vote matters, that their voice is being heard by our leaders, and that government can deliver for them and save them money and invest in them. And that's the type of vision and the type of actions you'll see from me as the next governor of Michigan.
Why announce this early? Do you think people want the campaign to begin this early?
I think people want to hear real solutions from leaders and a vision for the future of Michigan. And that's what I'm bringing, especially in a moment like this, where for a lot of folks, it's been a challenging week and a challenging month, not just for economic reasons, but for political ones as well. And it's not lost on me that today, January 22nd, is the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, a reminder of the rights that we have lost over the last several years and the need. It really underscores the need for us to have leaders who will fight for those rights, who will fight for protections, whether it be reproductive freedom, making that real for everyone in our state, or our voting freedoms, or just making sure the basic operations of government work well for folks. And so for me, I want to start by visiting the state, going all around, and making sure I'm showing up in every community with that message, with that vision, and with that hope for a better future for our state. And the last thing I'll say is, I just finished last week a series of community conversations that I mentioned, and going to every community, it's very clear that people are anxious, people are worried, and people want to know that the future is going to be safe, secure, and prosperous in our state.
Do you have any concerns that now that you've announced for governor, that everything you do now in your job, that everything you do officially will be seen through that political campaign lens?
Yeah, look, as the top Democratic vote getter in 2022, and as one of the statewide leaders that's been at the forefront of taking on powerful interests and bullies for the last several years, I'm already a target by folks who don't agree with the work that we've done to make government work well for everyone and more efficient for every resident of the state. So I don't expect that to impact anything. But the bottom line for me is I want to be a leader and ultimately a governor who puts transparency, efficiency, and good governance at the forefront. And so I'll work with anyone who shares those same goals. I don't think they're partisan goals. I think they're just goals that we all should share for our state. And I would hope that all of our leaders recognize the importance of working together and developing solutions for people, because that's why our voters are sending us to Lansing, to actually make their lives better and not play political games. So I'm going to stay in that lane, just developing solutions, talking with everyone to do so, and building a better Michigan, and welcome support all across the spectrum from folks who want to do the same, and we'll take on any fights I need to from folks who stand in the way of that.
Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, thanks so much.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
So we have now had 3 gubernatorial announcements in as many months, and they differ in their parties. We've got now a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent. But one thing the campaigns all do have in common?
I hear it way too often. Small business owners are left behind.
We have a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets a fair shot in life.
I went to Lansing and built relationships with Democrats and Republicans.
Each campaign announced in a highly produced, highly choreographed video, dropping in the early morning hours on social media. So what do we make of this? Is this a new trend in campaign announcements? And why? We turn to Matt Friedman for our answers. He is founder of Tanner Friedman and always makes us smarter in all things PR and communications. Hi, Matt.
Hello. Nice to be talking about this, which is reflective of a real trend.
Right. So
Whoa.
Back in the day, candidates would announce that they're going to announce. They would hold a press conference. They would take questions. Then there would be a statewide tour. That has changed. What is going on?
It has changed. And the reason is the way that news consumers get information has changed dramatically over the years. And there's no way to reach everybody with one move. You have to do a lot of different things to get the attention of your audience. What we're seeing these campaigns do is very similar to what we see in business. One of the questions I've been getting lately is, why aren't there more media days at the auto show? Why aren't there more media reveals at the auto show like there used to be? And the answer is that an automaker can reveal a new vehicle to their audience anytime they want, and they do it through video. And then they follow up with answering questions from the media and car reviews and things like that. And we're seeing these campaigns follow that same pattern. To get the attention of your audience, you need to be everywhere they are. You can't just call a press conference, do the press conference, and call it a day.
So, Matt, you have done your homework. You have watched all of these, at least gubernatorial announcements. Is there sort of one theme or takeaway? We've been always talking about vibe elections. What's the vibe from all of these videos?
I think what they're trying to do is establish a personal connection between the viewer and the candidate. so that you feel like you get a glimpse of the person, not just the talking points, not just the soundbite from behind a lectern at a press conference. We've seen these candidates in home environments, in casual clothes. They've basically been exploring their hobbies while talking about their candidacy. And that's something that the video platform allows that a traditional news interview would not. And it seems like, at least for this year, that's the formula.
I'm wondering, and I'm thinking both to maybe the candidates and to the public, is there a downside to this change?
I don't see any downside. As the old adage goes, you have only one chance to make a first impression. So if you want voters around Michigan to think of you differently or think of you at all, you need to get it right the first time. And to do that, you need to have as much control over that as possible. So what these campaigns are doing, and by the way, the Joe Biden campaign did the same thing in the run-up to the 2020 election. It all started with a video about his emotions about Charlottesville. They're catching consumers with these videos when voters are just waking up in the morning. A lot of the research shows people will go online and check social media before they even get out of bed. So if they see the video and they give it a minute or two, that's probably the first thing they're going to do that day. And that first impression, they're hoping, might click.
Is this now just the new normal, the new way of doing things, or is this going to evolve?
I don't think this is that new. This is following something we've been talking about in the communications business now for several years. We talk about multi-platform communication. That's a term that dates back now almost 20 years. That we've heard the term platform agnostic. It's about connecting your audience with the message no matter what the intermediary platform is. And I think these campaigns are doing what businesses have been trying to do for not a long time, but certainly it's not brand new.
Is there a danger in this? Maybe overexposure or something else?
I don't think that's a danger at all. If you look at the exit polling from the 2024 election, it tells you that, if anything, voters are underinformed compared to what we expected. We used to think anybody who votes, that's the threshold for somebody who's a well-informed citizen. Not necessarily anymore. The majority of people who voted in the most recent election told exit pollers that they did not subscribe to any sort of news media. That means those are people who were reached in other ways, and chances are it was through video and memes and untraditional, maybe underinformed means of communication. And so these campaigns know that now. And if anything, they have to work much harder than they used to inform their voters.
That is Matt Friedman, founding partner of Tanner Friedman and dearest of dear friends to the It's Just Politics pod. Matt, thank you so much.
Anytime.
And if you want Michigan politics in your inbox, then sign up for the It's Just Politics newsletter. Every single Friday afternoon, we will bring you what you need to know about the latest in Lansing. And that is It's Just Politics for today. I am Zoe Clark.
And I'm Rick Pluta.
Let's talk again next week.